Alright, we're going to do another anime style tutorial, and since people were asking for it, we're going to do it from start to finish. I'm going to open up a scan of a line art drawing that I did, and that is Anime 2. And there she is. Right now she's in grayscale, so let me put her into RGB mode. You can color in CMYK mode if you want to. Some effects don't work the same way in CMYK mode, and not all the filters work, so I usually color out of habit in RGB. I don't want to flatten this because I already added a layer, and the layer is going to be where I'm going to do flats first. And flats are just basically putting a solid color in each area of the drawing, so it'll be easier for you to select along the way. I'm going to start it, and then I'm going to do sort of an easy bake oven, skip ahead once I'm done with that. But so you know exactly what I'm talking about when I say I'm flatting. You use the lasso tool. You want to make sure that it's not feathered and that it is not anti-alias. The reason why is if you go back and select a color, even a solid color that has an anti-alias line to it, there'll be little halos to all your selections. So, anyway, let's go in and start. I'm going to start with the face, holding the Alt key down so I have some anchor points here. I'm not going to try and make this totally perfect. I'm just going to, of course, at 800 by 600, this isn't easy either. Just select this area. See, I'm going right up to the line. And all the colors when you're doing flat, it's really important that the colors buttress right up next to one another. Go. I'm going to go right across the hair, and I'll just cut that back in later. Now I'm going to fill this with a basic flesh tone. Put the layer into multiply mode so I can see what's underneath it. And there I have that part of my flats done. Okay, let's do the rest of her skin. That was me hitting the wrong key, by the way. Okay. Again, I'm just doing the flesh area. Now you can do this with the pencil tool as well, but I think the lasso tool is faster. I've definitely messed both ways, but there we go. Okay, and I'll fill that again. I'm using Alt Delete to fill with the foreground color. Alright, I'm going to go in and define the face. Get the eyeballs. Irises. That was me being clumsy and hitting the wrong key again. And now I have to keep these, again, I don't have to keep these colors that I'm selecting. I'm just sort of as long as it's a different color than the color next to it, it will allow you to select that again. And if you put it in a channel afterwards, it's going to all come grayscale anyway. Let's change that. There, that would work. That other color wouldn't, because it was the same color as the rest of the flesh, so if I tried to select those little bits, I would lose them. Got our little tattoos here, so we might as well hit those as well. We'll do her lips. Fill that selection. I might change the shape of they're a little too kissy. I can always use the pencil tool. To get a nice hard edge and change that shape if I want to. Really kind of make that more of a shadow under there than necessarily the bottom end of the lip. There, that looks a little better. Okay. I'm using the pencil tool just in the little highlight small areas I can do with like a stroke. I mean, the other way to do it, let's say I was using the pencil tool to do this, I would go around the whole area, you see the pencil tool, and making sure I have no breaks, and then switch to the paint bucket tool and fill. Of course, you don't want to have anti-alias on that either. I'll do this one with lasso. Now the handy thing after you've already done an area, I can go in, let's say I'm going to do the hair now. And since I've already gone in here, see how I'm just kind of loosey-goosey going in this area? That's a technical term, by the way, loosey-goosey. Just want to let you know. All professional colorists use loosey-goosey. And then I can go with the bucket fill tool, and since I have it on, I'll move it on to do a 0 tolerance. And then it won't select in there, so I don't have to be careful about that, but I don't want it to be the same color as the earrings, because that will not make me happy. And there, see? Even though our selection was all raggedy in there, it conformed right to that shape. And that's how you know you've got all your color buttressed right up against the next color. Okay? Alright, I'm going to easy bake oven this now. So when we come back, it will be all flatted, and you don't have to go through the whole rest of the process. Okay, now you can see our flats are entirely done. What I normally do is I'll take the layer and duplicate it, hide the one layer that I'll use as my reserve flats in case I want to mistake. Now, because you want to keep your flats solid colors, so after you finish painting, you can go back and easily reselect an area. If you go ahead and if I paint right in my flats, and then try to reselect my hair after I've done all kinds of different tones and rendering. It's very difficult to magic wand that area. You want to be able to go bop, one hit with a magic wand, you got the hair. And that's why you do flats. Alright, so let's start coloring our warrior S. Warrior S? Warrior? What? Well, whatever. Whatever she would be. Okay. I'm going to start with the flesh. And let's go ahead and show you now. Tolerance should be 0 on the magic wand. Anti-alias should be off. And by clicking in the areas, I can get the stuff I want. You hold the Shift key and you can select multiple areas at one time. I'm selecting all the flesh. And in our other tutorial, I'm going to have her be a little darker skinned. So this is going to be kind of our mid-tone of her flesh. And I'm going to go in and I'm going to go to the brush tool. Shift and B will switch from the brush tool to the pencil tool. I'm going to pick color. I'm going to darken a little bit because what I'm doing is my shadow conditions. I have a brush that's, you can see the two brushes I have. I'm going to go with this harder one because we're doing the anime style. And I'm going to decide, of course, first where my light's coming from. And I'm going to do, again, 3/4, kind of coming from the upper corner and going down across. Alright, so let's have the headband cast some shadow. We'll have a little bit of shadow from the eyebrows. Again, I'm pretty far zoomed out, so I will be cleaning this up a lot when I move in. Shadow under the nose, but not too big a one. I'm going to try a side shadow and we'll see how it works. Again, the great thing about all this stuff is you can, if you don't like it, you can always do it again. Wipe it clean. Okay. Continue that shadow over. Now the head will cast that same shadow onto the neck. Again, it's just kind of logic. You start thinking about, okay, what will cast shadows on what? The hair will cast shadows. These big eyelashes should have a little bit of a cast shadow. Because this anime style is so graphic in its nature, you know, think of the cast shadows. Because shadows really are what makes it interesting. These little teeth that she's wearing would do something. And I'm going to work into here. This goes in. That goes over. I'm going to go with the form. The shadow will be going on that side of the body. Here's her bicep. We can go in and out. Down there. Gonna have her breast cast a shadow on the arm. Give me a little bit of a core. A little shadow there. Let's see now. Okay. Let's do a little bit of a shadow here. And do a little bit of a shadow coming over here. Again, kind of think of if you look at a photograph of a person and you see where the shadows go, and you really kind of squint at it and really try and pretend those shadows had to be made hard and just shapes. Kind of look at their shapes. Try to ignore the softness of the shadows. And look at where those shapes would go and still look like they were real, or that's where the shadows should go. Okay, now she's going to have some rendering here in her stomach. This will be the other side of that stomach wall. I'm trying to be very, I'm going to go back in and render that a little bit more delicately, but I'm just trying to get a feel for it. I'm calling this at this was done on 11 by 17 sheet of paper at about 300 dpi. I'm coloring it at full resolution, and really I should be coloring it at about 200 dpi or 150 dpi, because it just makes things go faster. A bit of a shadow from that, a little bit of a shadow from that. Might even think about putting a shadow from the hand on the thigh, if it reads correctly. Let's see. Alrighty. It kind of works. Alright, so let me think about some... Start going in a little closer. You can see, when I move in real close, how it kind of gets a little sloppy with the shapes. It's easy to go in there though, with again I'm just using the brush tool. And now that I'm closer, my strokes are going to be smoother. A little bit of I've picked that mid-tone so I could go back in and sort of cut these shapes a little sharper with a negative. Give us a very thin rim light on this side. Doing the shadows from the eyelashes. Of course, I'm exaggerating all this stuff, but you know, this is a stylization that we got going here anyway. So that's kind of part of it. Okay. Okay, now I might try one more darker color. It's going to be a couple extra colors than we had last time we did one. Something there, just defining that nose shape a little bit. This would be where the darkest shadows would go on this figure. Okay. Shadow. I'm working with basically 3 tones right now. And I'm going to go into a highlight pretty soon. Notice I'm going a little smoother than I did on the other anime sample. It's a little bit more traditional. Okay. Now we should think about some highlights here. I'm going to pick a highlight color. Again, this is all still pretty much using the same brush tool that I have been using. Now think in terms of where the light would hit on her, if the light's coming from that way. Do we like that shape or not? Now you could put all these shapes too on another layer if you wanted to, just if you weren't quite sure on where to put them, and then you could just turn off the layer and turn on a layer and let your eye just kind of let you see what looks right at the end of the day. I'm going to try and keep the highlights real simple, so I think I'm fine with that. Do a little bit on the neck. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to finish up the rest of the face and then move on from there. So let's get the eyes going. Holding Shift key, I get both of the flats on the eyeballs. And pick a darker gray. Again, I'm just doing a stroke, just like a, following the shape of the eyelids, just as if they're casting that shadow right there on the eyeball. Okay, now we're going to need the highlight there, so let's pick a pure white. Put that on the bottom. Okay, and let's deal with our irises. Oops. Hold on. Hide the selection. Again, I'm going for a darker color. And I'm going to do a nice little bright as I can go highlight. Down at the bottom. I'm going to get rid of my selection, and I'm just going to, with the green, go a little bit in here. And there I got my eyes. Go over here, hide the selection. It's a little too strong. I'm going to desaturate. I'm going to use Control U or Apple U and drop down the saturation. There. Okay, let's deal with the lips. Cut a couple friskets here. Oops. Highlights where it's hitting. Do another selection. I have my smoothing selection action going on there. And then without a selection, I'm just going to give us a little tiny hit. Okay. So there's her face. We'll do the earrings next. I'm going to make these a reflective gold material. So we'll take the highlight. I'm going to go towards the yellow so I can get a brighter color. And go right at that area. Right next to the, when you put a bright right next to a dark, it's where it gets brightest. You have to have the darks to have the brights. Okay. Now I might go in here, and notice I use HSB sliders as opposed to CMYK or the other thing. I usually will color with my proof colors on. I didn't quite do that this time. I'm going to leave them off since this is a for video, not really print. But anyway, usually color with your proof colors on your CMYK colors, and then you can pick illegal colors in RGB, and you'll be okay, because when you lay them down, you're going to see what they're going to look like when they print. Alright, let's go back into here. Where was I? Did the earrings. Oh, Yeah, I was thinking about again a little bit of a cool condition in here. So I'm taking I picked the dark brown color from the earrings, and I'm just gonna. The only thing I'm gonna do is change the saturation on it, and then go into it. And see what that does? It gives us that kind of. It helps to turn the form a little bit on those earrings. Helps them look maybe more, a little more real. And that's just by desaturating. A lot of people, it's a common error. Notice that's a brown color that's just desaturated. And look how it almost looks like a cool blue. And a lot of people who are trying to do this style of coloring will often put blue in those areas, and it's usually a mistake unless unless there's an environmental color that is that blue reflecting into the shadow condition. But a lot of times it's just the desaturated shadow that we're dealing with. I'm just doing a little cleanup here on the face. All right. Now we're going to do nice little shiny hits on the eyes and the earrings later, but we're pretty close to there on that face. Yeah, it's coming out all right. All right, let's work on the hair. There's a couple chunks here, so you have to go and pick them. Now again, I think this is about our mid-tone for the hair. I'm going to go ahead and go a little bit darker. Just seeing the edges of these areas here. Again, the important part with these shapes is that you kind of follow the form and shapes of the ink drying below them. If I went like that, and that didn't follow that, then it doesn't work. It's got to follow these shapes. I drew this myself, but sometimes you may be working over people. If you're not drawing your own things, you're working over other people, and there's no point in ignoring what they have put down. If you fight it, it's not going to be a good piece at the end of the day. Again, having said that, though, if there are definitely people of different skill levels drawing comic books that you may be coloring, and when the people aren't as good, a good lesson I learned right from the beginning from Joe Chido was keep it simple, stupid. Don't call attention. Don't over-render. A lot of times your instinct will be, okay, this looks like junk. I'm going to have to go in there and just render the heck out of it and really make it almost into a painting. The problem is when you do that is you call attention to all the problems with the original piece. If you start rendering up that nose that's poorly drawn or misproportioned or, any number of bad things done to it, you're just going to call attention to it more. It's probably I think you get it just from that one remark. Anyway, keep it simple. It's like the old inker rule. When in doubt, black it out. Okay. This is working for me. Okay, let me do that one. Again, it all kind of works very easily too once you've established, okay, I know where my lights are going. Okay. And I probably should do some highlights in there. I'm going to use the lasso tool for that. And I'll show you a little trick. I think I showed you on the other tape, but it's kind of handy when you're not exactly sure what color you want to pick. I'm just smoothing my selection. I have a smooth selection action that I use, especially when I'm zoomed out far like this, because if I'm this far out, my selection is going to be pretty haggard when it goes in. It's something about a Photoshop algorithm. Anyway, I've selected now, I've hid them, but I've selected all my highlight spots in the hair. I'm just going to use hue and saturation, because I can sit there and I can mess with it. I can just go, okay, I definitely they're going to be lighter. Is that the color I want? Maybe. What about if it's a little more saturated? A little brighter? Nah, I think right about there. And you can play with some, experiment with some different other casts in the color. It's always boring if you go to white. You don't really want to, There's some things where it dictates going to white, but otherwise, I like that. It's going now a little bit more on the awkward green side of things, and that works. I'm going to be hitting it with a little bit of an airbrush at the end anyway, but I think we get the idea of hair there. Big wild hair. Okay. Headband time. This is going to be easy. Again, going to brush tool, selecting that base color. I'm going to go darker. About like that. And again, remember, shadow, shadow. Hair will cast shadow on it. The thinner hair will, of course, cast the thinner shadow. And there we go. I'm just going to keep it simple like that. Okay, the teeth. Keep these pretty simple too. Select them all. Hide the selection. I'm going to pick a little bit darker gray. Again, following the form. One stroke. Boom! Teeth, so they're shiny, so let's give them a pure white highlight. A little one where the about right about there, and there, and there, and a little one there. Okie dokie. That's getting there. Okay, let's start rendering this body up. I'm going to start fixing, first thing first, I'm going to start fixing some of the shapes that I already I don't have anything selected now, so I'm being careful as I go near other colors I don't want to work too much into. Okay. Again, it's just refining the shapes. I'm going to pick that other darker color. I'm just going to use it as a little bit of a core shadow here. And right there, I'll just fade out. I don't need it to go through the whole thing. You notice how I keep zooming out? It's to show the relationships of color to the next piece, because you can sit there and pay all the attention you want to an arm or a leg or something like that, but you have to remember it's part of a whole piece, and if it doesn't really help the rest of the piece, then you might want to forget about it. Alright. I'm going to go ahead and use my flats. Clicking on that layer, I want to get the flesh again. There I go. Taking my eye back off my flats layer. This way I don't have to worry about running into the other colors. Again, she's going to have some abs. I'm just refining the shapes. I think it's a little undefined. Okay. All right. Okay. Just refining some of these shapes. I don't like the gloops. They're going to have sort of a more pointy sort of cut shapes for the manga stuff. Okay, somehow it seems like I've lost my pressure sensitivity. I know this has happened before. Maybe this will do it. Yep, I got it back. Something to do with the Camtasia program that I use. Screen capture program. Alright. A little more cleanup. Just a little bit. Just go a little point there. And a little bit here. Let it fade out. Okay. I'm using selections. I'll go back in and clean it up with the brush tool. Okay. Okay. That's working. I'm going to grab my flats again. Again, dealing with the skin. Holding the shift key to get all the areas I want to. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and just give me a little edge light here. Here. And I'm just doing little highlights. Again, we'll see where these work and where they don't. I don't really want to do too many. Now again, you could always use hue and saturation if you want to lessen them. Or again, put them in another layer. I'm just going to drop the lightness a little bit on them so they're not so severe. But then I don't like them. So I'm just not going to use them. We'll try something else later. Okay, let's say we're done right now with our skin tone, and let's go on to our apparel. Let's deal with our bands first, because they're going to be quick. Picking it, I'm going a little darker. Again, following the form. I'll pick a lighter one. Okay. Okay. Let's do the other one. Okay. Okay. Give her sort of a golden bra. Going towards yellow now. Again, it's a reflective surface, so it's got to have some... It's going to have a horizon line in it. And since it should be very shiny, it will have some highlights right along the edge. Alright. Now I made a mistake by going right up to it with the same color as above it. My own fault. Don't you do that. So I'm just going to be careful as I go to the bottom edge. I'm just rendering the shapes like they're raised a bit. Those little cut-in areas are definitely cut in, and the rest is sort of raised up. And highlight. A little bit here, and a little bit here, and a little bit there. Here. Okay. If they're raised up, they should cast a little shadow here and over here. Okay. Let's do these beads. They're a little selected, connected to the flesh. So just again, be careful. The fatter I am. I'm going to make them gold as well. Okay. Slowly but surely she's getting there. Again, I'm going to have this be some sort of uncomfortable gold medal bikini, as I'm sure it would be. Not that I wear bikinis, thank you very much. Okay. Again, we'll deal with that horizon line. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Get that little pouch thing going. Actually, I'm going to give us a couple of hits on this. Makes it look like it's a little bit of a segment if I do that. You look at somebody who does metal really great. Look at Jaime Soriyama. Alright, this is just the simple stylized version. Okay. Now the pouch. Again, just think of the shape of it and where the sun's coming from, and you're done pretty quick. Okay. Now let's deal with that staff she has. The big sort of axe blade. just defining the areas a little bit more here. Before I do anything else, I should probably save this. Save a lot more often than I've been. Okay, let's do the X, and we're almost there. Again, reflective surface, give it a horizon line, and you're pretty much there. Give it there. And then, of course, as you already know, go brighter with it towards the core. And on this edge. Okay. There she basically is. She needs a background, so we'll do that next. I'm just kind of looking at her and seeing what bothers me and what I need to fix. Let's see. Okay, here we go back to it. Let's give her a background. I'm going to create another layer. I'm going to fill it with a nice blue, a nice dark blue. Oops. Actually, I can just, let's hit my selection. Let's hit my selection in the right layer. There you go. And holding the shift key to get everything that I want. And undoing things when I accidentally grab a bit I don't want. Okay. Now let's fill that. Alright, I wanted to keep it on another layer, that's why I went ahead and did that. Okay. I messed messed up. Somewhere along the line I have something that's anti-alias, but it's no problem because I'll show you how you fix that. I have her right now above it, so I can put her into normal mode and take the line art where it really should be anyway, and make a copy of it and drag it up to the top mode and put that in multiply mode. Multiply mode means that basically white becomes essentially transparent and just the darks will show through. So now it looks just like the way I had it before, and we don't need that background there. Okay, so I take my layer that I want to put my background on. You can see when you get the file too, you can always grab it and open it and see what's going on as well. So I'm filling that entire background layer. I've got a little bit here. Let's see what's going on here. I'm going to go back into my color layer, grab the erase tool, and just, for some reason there's a little piece of actual white there. Okay. Now I'm in the background. I'm going to go ahead and get a nice brighter blue towards her. And we use a softer brush and a big softer brush. Just kind of halo her a little bit. A 1000 pixel brush. Goes a little slow on a Pentium 3 1 gigahertz, especially at full size. So remember, listen to what I say, not what I do. Color these things at a little lower resolution. Really didn't have much of a problem until now. I'm going to escape that and just go with a little smaller brush. Yeah, now the reason it's slow, I just realized, is I made my extra smooth brushes here. So I'm going to increase the spacing on this brush, because right now the spacing will be at 0. So let's go ahead and the spacing is at 1%. That'll give you a very smooth stroke, but you're not going to want to do that with a really big brush, because it will not be happy about it. So I'm going to go about 24. Okay. Now they should move a little bit fast. See how that moves a lot faster now. And usually when I use the airbrushing, I bring down my opacity a little bit more. It seems to give you a little bit better control. Okay, again, just sort of haloing it. I'm going to go a little brighter color. Make a little bit smaller brush. And again, this is just sort of to draw attention to her. Because I'm going to do something else. Oh, and I noticed something right now that I missed doing. her armband, or didn't color her armband. So let's do that real quick. Of course, yep. Again, gold. I need to switch to the harder tool. Put my opacity back up. Okay, and then some highlights. And we're out. Okay. Alright, now that's okay, but I want something more interesting in there. So I have let's open up I opened up a star field that the studio has made for multiple uses. Kind of don't use it as much in comics anymore because it's kind of a little bit too much, but it's perfect for an anime job. So and we're gonna make a layer above the background layer. I'm going to paste it in there. We're going to scale it with the transform tool. Hold the shift key so you have a proportional scale. Hit enter. Again, one of the reasons to be working at a lower resolution. You can see now, especially against the dark, how her bikini now looks more golden. I kind of like the brassy gold that it is. Still thinking. Okay. I'm still thinking. Come on, computer. Okay. Now, I want to use that color that we've set up, so I'm going to put this into screen mode. And screen will essentially make all the dark areas sort of disappear. And now that looks kind of anime to me. Another cool thing to do with this is if you mess with colorize, bring up saturation 100%, and you can play with different colors on top of there. And again, I like the hue and saturation tool because it gives you such control. I kind of am a sucker for the blue. So that was it after. Hello, computer. And that's it. That's it without it. That's it with it. And with the color changed on it. So it gives you all sort of that same color stars. And if you wanted to get rid of the stars, if you painted to the screen layer in black, you could just edit out the areas where you don't really want stars. Of course, I have now one of the slow brushes doing its job. No spacing. Of course, it's one stroke, so I can undo it. This is the fast brush. No, it's not. It switched back on me. Dagnabbit. Let's try this one. This should be a standard airbrush. Yes, it is. So anyway, now we'll have that all edited out. No, you can see by going in the black area. With black, I'm painting in the screen area. I can pretty much edit out the stars that I don't really want if I didn't want them, and just have them like right next to her. But I kind of like them all in there, so I'm going to leave them alone. Alright, so what do I want to do next? I'm going to play with her. Now I can do a levels, it's just a layer, but I'm pretty confident that I'll just do it here and get what I want. So let's she didn't quite pop enough for me. Okay. There we go. Alright, now I was going to do a bunch of little hits to make her shiny bits a little more shiny. So let's first do our softening. So I'm selecting everything. I'm holding the Control, Shift, and Alt keys. Alright, Control, Shift, C, which will basically copy a flattened layer. So we'll take all the layers, it will flatten them, copy them, without flattening them in the image. It will just be what I have in my paste buffer, and you'll see when I paste it in, it will be a flattened version. And then I'm going to do a little bit of our glamour softening to her, especially since she's a she. Okay, so I'm going to paste. I'm going to blur. Gaussian blur. About 11 or 15 pixels is usually, about 15 will go. So I have a new layer that's on top, which is all the other layers flattened together in that layer. And I'm using it as a softening layer. So I've blurred it, and I'm just going to merge it at a percentage. And again, you can go through them with a eraser tool or with a mask, and you can, if you want certain areas to be a little more sharp, do that. Or you can even play with the mode. Right now it's a normal mode. A lot of people like it in overlay mode. Some people like it in lighten mode. But normal seems to work pretty good. I'm going to lower the percentage just a little bit. %. Okay, now I'm going to make another layer. And this layer will be screen layer. In this layer I'm going to go through and I'm going to add some hits to our shiny parts. I'm reducing the opacity so I have a little more control over the airbrush here. Okay, so a little bit on there. Let's have a little bit come in from behind her, from that light behind her. Kind of just gives it a soft little glare from the really bright, shiny thing there. Okay. Now let's go ahead and do a little bit on the gold. Going with the yellow. I'm gonna reduce the opacity a little bit more. Just lightly hitting the areas so they get that sort of shiny feel. And her earrings. And again, you have control over this. You can tone it down or amp it up, whatever you want. I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit on her eyes. Alright, she's looking pretty good. Let's see. Okay. I'm going to open a little flare that I've made. Again, all these files will be in the folder on the CD, so you'll be able to pull this stuff out. And that's not the flare I wanted. Alright, we'll have to make one. Let's make one. Okay, I'm in the screen layer. And I'm going to make another screen layer just so I can have a flare that's going to be mine. And I can do whatever I want with it. Using the lasso tool, I'm just going out, I have it anchored. I'm just going to go for a star cross shape. Okay. Now with the brush tool, lightly hit it so it fades off. Bright at the center, but fading everywhere else. And then I'm taking off that selection, and I'm just hitting it with the airbrush with no selection right at the center. Okay, now the cool part about that being on a layer is I can put it wherever I want. I'm going to make sure it's on screen mode. And I can also, let me show you again that whole, if I do colorize with it, bring up the saturation, bring down the color a little bit. See how I can actually tint it? So it has a nice little tint to it. So like if it was coming off a yellow surface, I can make it a little bit yellowy. We'll do that with that. And if you want to copy that layer, and give it like a double hit there, you could do that. It might be too much, but you know. Or you can always just give single hits over here. Well, that might be a little bit, again, too much, but maybe a hit here as well. And you can always scale them, so if I copy the layer again, bring one up here, use the transform tool, make it smaller, then paste that. That looks a little better because they're not the same size. But again, that might be too much, but it's on a layer, so you can always, you know, let your art director tell you, or your little inner child, or whatever you got. But I'm going to make it smaller. And if I want to make another, let's see, where's that one? I'm going to copy the big one. Bring it up over here. This one I'll increase its size. Move that up there. And like I said before, now I tinted it, so we can always tint it again. Get more of a blue. And you can always blur them too. So if I'm going to blur this out, do a Gaussian blur a little bit. That was 15 pixels. And softens that out. And I don't think I like these, so I'll leave these ones off. That one, no, that one's good. Maybe just one is good. I like it on the earring. Yeah, I think that's nice. That's a little bit better. And there you go. I think she's done. Again, lots of layers in the final file for you to play with, so open it up, turn some of them on and off, and see what works and see what doesn't.